Imagine a woman walking into a room and not asking for approval. She does not bend to fit anyone else's expectations. She moves with a quiet confidence that does not shout but is impossible to ignore. That is the power of a high-value woman. Today, I want to talk about why high-value women don't seek external validation and why this principle can change everything in your life. A high-value woman understands that her worth is not measured by likes, compliments, or approval from others. She does not need someone to tell her she is enough, because she already knows. She spends time cultivating her mind, her passions, her body, and her spirit. This is why external validation loses its power over her. She has invested in herself in ways that no one else can validate. Seeking approval is a trap. It makes you dependent, anxious, and small. When you base your happiness on someone else's opinion, you give away your power. High-value women have learned this early. They have faced criticism, rejection, and judgment, and they realize that the only voice that truly matters is their own. They choose their path not because it pleases others, but because it fulfills them. Confidence is quiet, but it is magnetic. It does not need applause. High-value women do not compare themselves to others, because comparison is the enemy of peace. They know that someone else's success does not diminish their own. They celebrate without envy and shine without needing anyone to notice. This self-reliance builds resilience, and resilience becomes the armor that no criticism can penetrate. High-value women also understand boundaries. They know what they will accept and what they will not. They do not compromise their values or their self-respect for temporary approval. They walk away from situations and people that drain them. This might feel lonely at times, but solitude is a teacher. In solitude, they learn to trust themselves, to listen to their own voice, and to find joy in their own company. Another reason high-value women do not seek validation is that they are too busy building real impact. They are creating, learning, leading, and loving with intention. Time spent worrying about what others think is time wasted. They understand that life rewards action, effort, and authenticity more than approval. They focus on what matters and let the rest fade into the background. At the heart of it, high-value women know that true confidence comes from within. They know that the most important relationship they will ever have is the one with themselves. They are their own source of approval, their own motivation, and their own standard. No compliment or criticism can shake their sense of worth, because it is already anchored deep inside. High-value women understand something that many struggle to grasp: true self-worth does not come from outside validation. From a young age, society teaches us to look for approval, to measure our success by others' praise, compliments, or recognition. We are conditioned to feel good about ourselves only when others tell us we are beautiful, smart, or successful enough. But a high-value woman sees through this illusion. She knows that relying on external sources for validation is like building a house on sand, unstable and fleeting. She understands that praise is temporary, opinions are subjective, and approval can be withdrawn at any moment. Real strength and confidence come from within, from knowing who she is and what she stands for, independent of the applause of others. When she walks into a room, she does not seek to impress anyone, because she already impresses herself. Her self-worth is not contingent on someone else's standards or perceptions. She invests her energy in developing herself, her skills, her mind, her character, and her purpose, because she knows that these are the things that truly define her value. She understands that no compliment can increase her self-esteem any more than criticism can decrease it, because her foundation is rooted in self-awareness and self-respect. She recognizes that approval from others is fleeting and often superficial, whereas inner confidence is constant and enduring. High-value women practice self-validation every day. They affirm their own worth through actions, decisions, and thoughts that honor themselves. They celebrate their achievements without waiting for someone else to notice. When faced with criticism or judgment, they do not crumble because they are not dependent on external opinions for a sense of identity. Instead, they evaluate feedback objectively, taking what is constructive and leaving what is irrelevant. This discernment allows them to grow without compromising their sense of self. They understand that criticism from others often reflects the insecurities or perspectives of the critic more than any truth about themselves. This internalized sense of worth also influences how they choose relationships. High-value women do not stay in situations where they are constantly seeking approval or fighting for recognition. They surround themselves with people who respect their boundaries, value their contributions, and appreciate them for who they are. They know that being in relationships where they are constantly seeking validation is draining and unsustainable. By knowing their worth, they set standards for how they allow others to treat them, and they walk away from anything that undermines their self-respect. This ability to honor themselves becomes magnetic, drawing in people and opportunities that align with their true value. A high-value woman also knows the difference between confidence and arrogance. Her self-worth is not about needing to prove herself or dominate others. It is about being fully aware of her capabilities and limitations. She carries herself with grace and humility, secure in the knowledge that she does not need validation to justify her existence. Confidence that comes from within allows her to take risks, pursue her goals, and embrace challenges without fear of judgment. She understands that her life's journey is hers alone, and the opinions of others cannot define her progress or her success. Moreover, high-value women understand the importance of self-reflection. They regularly check in with themselves, assessing whether their actions align with their values, goals, and vision for life. This self-awareness reinforces their sense of worth and ensures that they are living authentically. When you know yourself deeply, you no longer need constant reassurance from others. You understand that the most important voice in your life is your own, and you trust that voice implicitly. Ultimately, the reason high-value women do not seek external validation is that they have discovered a profound truth: your value is inherent, unshakable, and entirely your own. No compliment, accolade, or approval can increase it, and no criticism, judgment, or rejection can diminish it. Their self-worth is a source of strength that fuels every choice they make, every relationship they cultivate, and every goal they pursue. By anchoring their identity in themselves rather than in others, they live freely, confidently, and with purpose. Knowing your worth is not arrogance. It is freedom. And for a high-value woman, that freedom is priceless. Confidence is a quiet force that flows from within, and high-value women understand this truth deeply. Unlike the kind of confidence that seeks attention or demands recognition, their confidence is steady, unwavering, and magnetic in its subtlety. It does not announce itself through loud declarations or constant validation seeking. Instead, it grows from years of self-awareness, experience, and an unshakable understanding of their own worth. They do not need applause to feel validated, because they already know who they are and what they bring to the world. This kind of confidence is not built on external factors or fleeting achievements. It is cultivated through inner work, reflection, and deliberate choices that align with their values and goals. High-value women recognize that outward displays of confidence often fool only those who are looking for them. True confidence is not performative. It is quiet because it is secure. It is steady because it is anchored in self-respect. They do not compete for attention or approval, and they do not feel the need to prove themselves to anyone. Their self-assurance is a natural byproduct of living authentically, embracing their strengths, and acknowledging their weaknesses without shame. They understand that real confidence is not about being flawless or superior. It is about embracing who you are completely and refusing to let anyone else's opinion define your sense of worth. This quiet confidence allows high-value women to make decisions without hesitation or second guessing. They trust their instincts and their judgment because they have spent time understanding themselves, their priorities, and their boundaries. When others doubt them or question their choices, it does not shake them because they know that the most important approval is their own. They do not seek permission to act, to speak, or to pursue their dreams. Instead, they move with certainty, knowing that their value and their vision are enough to guide them. Confidence also manifests in the way they interact with others. High-value women do not rely on charm, flattery, or manipulation to gain favor. Their presence alone communicates strength, poise, and self-assurance. People are naturally drawn to them, not because they demand attention, but because they exude a calm and authentic energy that is impossible to ignore. This is why they often leave a lasting impression without even trying. Their confidence comes from understanding that they do not need to impress anyone to be worthy of respect or admiration. High-value women also recognize that true confidence requires resilience. Life presents challenges, setbacks, and moments of doubt. But they do not let these circumstances define them. Instead, they use difficulties as opportunities to grow, learn, and strengthen their sense of self. Confidence is not about never feeling fear or uncertainty. It is about moving forward despite those feelings. It is about trusting that you have the inner resources to handle whatever comes your way. This resilience reinforces their quiet confidence, because they know they can rely on themselves rather than external validation for support or reassurance. Another key aspect of their confidence is humility. High-value women are secure enough in themselves that they do not need to compete, boast, or belittle others to feel worthy. They can celebrate the successes of others without envy because their self-esteem is not dependent on comparison. Their confidence allows them to lift others while remaining grounded in their own power. This combination of strength and grace makes their presence magnetic and their influence lasting. The quiet confidence of a high-value woman also allows her to embrace vulnerability without fear. She understands that showing emotions, admitting mistakes, or seeking help when necessary does not diminish her worth. On the contrary, it demonstrates self-awareness, courage, and authenticity. She does not need to maintain a facade of perfection because her value is not dependent on the perception of others. Her inner strength allows her to be both strong and soft, decisive and empathetic, ambitious and patient. Ultimately, the confidence of a high-value woman is a reflection of her inner clarity and self-respect. It is quiet because it does not need to shout. It is powerful because it is anchored in truth. She moves through the world with grace, resilience, and certainty, unaffected by the opinions of others. Her confidence is magnetic, inspiring, and unshakable, and it allows her to live fully, act decisively, and pursue her dreams without hesitation. True confidence is not loud. It does not demand attention. It simply exists, steady and undeniable, within a woman who knows her worth. And this is why high-value women do not need to seek validation from anyone but themselves. High-value women understand the importance of boundaries and how they protect their energy, self-respect, and overall well-being. Unlike those who constantly seek approval or validation from others, they know that their time, attention, and emotional energy are precious resources that must be guarded carefully. They have learned through experience that not every relationship, situation, or interaction deserves their energy, and giving it freely to people or circumstances that do not honor them only drains their spirit. Setting boundaries is not an act of selfishness, it is an act of self-love and self-preservation. By knowing what they will and will not tolerate, high-value women ensure that their inner world remains secure, balanced, and aligned with their values. Boundaries are not just about saying no. They are about creating space for what truly matters. High-value women do not allow themselves to be manipulated, guilted, or pressured into actions that conflict with their principles. They understand that external validation often comes with a hidden cost, the cost of compromising one's own needs or desires to satisfy someone else's expectations. By establishing firm boundaries, they reclaim their power and maintain control over their lives. This clarity allows them to make decisions without the constant worry of pleasing others. And it fosters a sense of freedom that cannot exist when one is constantly seeking approval. The process of creating boundaries requires self-awareness. High-value women spend time reflecting on their values, priorities, and emotional triggers. They recognize situations that sap their energy or diminish their self-worth, and they take deliberate action to avoid them. They are not reactive but intentional in their choices, understanding that their energy is too valuable to be wasted on people who fail to respect it. This intentionality ensures that their interactions are meaningful, their relationships are healthy, and their environment supports their growth. Every boundary they establish is a declaration of their self-respect and a refusal to compromise their inner peace for fleeting approval. Boundaries also play a crucial role in their relationships. High-value women do not allow others to dictate their emotions or self-perception. They are selective about who they invest their energy in, choosing people who uplift, respect, and encourage them rather than those who constantly question, criticize, or diminish them. They understand that toxic relationships can erode confidence and lead to dependency on external validation. By enforcing boundaries, they create relationships based on mutual respect, authenticity, and shared values rather than a need for constant reassurance. This approach ensures that their connections are empowering rather than depleting. Another key aspect of boundaries is the courage to walk away when necessary. High-value women know that it is not enough to set rules. They must also enforce them consistently. Walking away from people, situations, or environments that violate their standards requires strength and self-trust. It may feel uncomfortable or lonely at times, but they understand that maintaining integrity and honoring themselves is far more valuable than seeking temporary approval from anyone. This willingness to protect themselves at all costs reinforces their independence and demonstrates a level of self-respect that commands admiration rather than seeking it. Boundaries also allow high-value women to focus on their growth and priorities. When they are not distracted by the need to satisfy others or seek validation, they can dedicate their time to meaningful pursuits, personal development, and cultivating a life aligned with their vision. They know that energy spent trying to meet other people's expectations is energy taken away from their own goals and passions. By protecting their focus and energy, they maintain momentum in their personal and professional life, allowing them to achieve greater success and fulfillment. Importantly, setting boundaries does not make a woman rigid or unapproachable. It makes her respected. High-value women understand that clear boundaries create clarity in communication, expectations, and interactions. Others know where they stand, and this transparency fosters healthier relationships built on respect and understanding. Their energy becomes intentional rather than reactive, and their lives become a reflection of their self-respect and inner strength. Ultimately, the ability to set and maintain boundaries is a cornerstone of why high-value women do not seek external validation. Their worth is not determined by others' opinions because they protect their inner world fiercely. They know that approval is temporary, but self-respect and personal integrity are permanent. By creating boundaries, they preserve their energy, nurture their growth, and cultivate relationships and environments that support their highest self. Protecting your energy through boundaries is not a limitation. It is the foundation of freedom, strength, and unwavering self-respect. And this is why high-value women never feel the need to seek validation from others. High-value women understand that comparison is the enemy of peace, growth, and authentic self-worth. In a world driven by social media, societal expectations, and constant messaging about who we should be or how we should look, it is easy to fall into the trap of measuring ourselves against others. Yet, a high-value woman refuses to be defined by someone else's achievements, appearances, or standards. She knows that every person's journey is unique, and comparing herself to others only distracts her from her own purpose and potential. She recognizes that the moment she begins to measure her worth against another person, she is giving away her power, placing her self-esteem in someone else's hands, and diminishing her own individuality. Comparison creates dissatisfaction and envy. It makes accomplishments feel smaller, even when they are significant. High-value women have learned that this is a path to unhappiness and stagnation. They know that no matter how much they achieve, if they are constantly looking sideways at someone else, they will never feel truly fulfilled. Instead of comparing, they focus on their own progress, their own growth, and their own unique talents. They measure themselves not against others, but against their past selves, celebrating how far they have come rather than worrying about how far someone else has gone. This internal focus fosters confidence, self-respect, and a sense of peace that external validation could never provide. High-value women also understand that comparison is often based on incomplete information. Social media shows curated highlights, edited photos, and carefully crafted impressions. It does not reveal the struggles, sacrifices, or setbacks behind someone else's success. By recognizing this, they do not allow envy or self-doubt to creep in. They focus instead on their own journey, their own efforts, and their own achievements, knowing that their path is as valid and valuable as anyone else's. They cultivate gratitude for what they have and determination for what they are working toward, refusing to let superficial comparisons dictate their self-esteem. Another reason high-value women avoid comparison is that it distracts from their authenticity. When a person constantly tries to imitate or measure up to someone else, they lose touch with their own strengths, talents, and desires. High-value women embrace their individuality, knowing that their uniqueness is their greatest asset. They do not seek to be someone else or replicate another person's life, because they understand that trying to fit into someone else's mold is a form of self-betrayal. By staying true to themselves, they cultivate a sense of identity and purpose that is unwavering and independent of anyone else's opinion or success. Comparison also undermines resilience and personal growth. When a woman measures herself against others, failures feel heavier and challenges seem more discouraging. High-value women, however, use every experience, success or setback as an opportunity to learn and grow. They do not compare their progress to someone else's highlight reel, but focus on how they can improve, evolve, and become stronger versions of themselves. This mindset allows them to pursue goals with clarity and determination, free from the pressure of measuring up to external standards. High-value women also understand the importance of celebrating others without envy. When they see someone else succeed, they do not shrink or feel diminished. Instead, they recognize that another person's achievements do not take away from their own worth or potential. They offer genuine support and encouragement. Understanding that life is abundant and that there is room for everyone to shine. By releasing jealousy and embracing admiration, they create positive energy that elevates not only themselves, but those around them as well. Ultimately, avoiding comparison allows high-value women to maintain focus, confidence, and inner peace. They direct their energy toward meaningful goals, self-improvement, and cultivating authentic relationships, rather than worrying about what others are doing or how they measure up. Their self-esteem is anchored in who they are, not in how they appear next to someone else. They understand that the most important competition is with themselves, not with anyone else, and that growth, happiness, and fulfillment come from alignment with their own purpose rather than comparison with others. When a woman releases the need to compare, she frees herself from distraction, envy, and self-doubt. She steps fully into her power, her individuality, and her journey. This freedom is a defining trait of high-value women and a key reason why they never seek external validation. High-value women understand the transformative power of solitude and why it is essential to their growth, clarity, and inner strength. In a world that constantly encourages connection, approval, and attention from others, choosing to spend time alone can feel counterintuitive. Yet, they know that solitude is not loneliness. It is a deliberate and empowering choice. It is in the quiet moments, away from the noise of external opinions and expectations, that they are able to connect deeply with themselves, reflect on their values, and cultivate a sense of self that is independent of others' validation. Solitude becomes a sanctuary where their confidence, creativity, and purpose are nurtured. High-value women do not fear being alone because they have learned to be their own source of comfort, strength, and motivation. They understand that relying on others for emotional stability or happiness is a fragile foundation. By embracing solitude, they reclaim their independence and reinforce the belief that their worth is not contingent on anyone else. In these moments alone, they can explore their passions, identify their desires, and evaluate their personal and professional goals without distraction. This connection with their inner world allows them to make decisions from a place of clarity and authenticity, rather than reacting to external pressures or seeking approval. Solitude also provides the space to reflect on experiences, both successes and failures, and to extract lessons from them. High-value women use this time to understand their patterns, recognize areas for growth, and celebrate their progress. They do not shy away from introspection or uncomfortable truths because they know that understanding themselves fully is essential for long-term growth. In this self-reflection, they develop resilience, emotional intelligence, and a deep sense of self-respect. They learn to trust their instincts and intuition, knowing that the most important guidance in their lives comes from within, not from the opinions or expectations of others. High-value women also use solitude as a tool to strengthen their boundaries and reinforce self-discipline. When they are alone, they are not influenced by peer pressure or the need to conform. They can fully prioritize their values and act in ways that honor their integrity. This intentionality allows them to set higher standards for themselves and for the people they allow into their lives. In solitude, they are free to nurture their mental, emotional, and physical health without distraction, creating a foundation of strength that others cannot shake. Another powerful aspect of solitude is the freedom it brings to explore creativity and personal growth. High-value women know that their ideas, ambitions, and potential flourish in uninterrupted focus. They pursue projects, hobbies, and goals with full attention, undisturbed by the need to impress or gain approval from others. This concentrated energy allows them to innovate, excel, and evolve in ways that would be impossible if they were constantly seeking validation. Solitude fosters independence and a sense of agency over their own lives, giving them the confidence to act decisively and authentically. High-value women also recognize that solitude teaches them to appreciate their own company and cultivate inner joy. They do not measure their happiness by the presence of others or by external recognition. Instead, they find fulfillment in personal achievements, meaningful experiences, and self-expression. This ability to enjoy their own presence without needing external validation strengthens their emotional resilience. They understand that the ability to be content alone is a superpower because it removes dependency on others for happiness and security. Ultimately, Embracing solitude allows high-value women to build a life that is centered on their own values, purpose, and growth. They become self-reliant, confident, and unshakable because they know that their sense of worth is not tied to anyone else's approval. The time spent alone is not wasted. It is invested in self-discovery, reflection, and personal development. This independence ensures that when they enter relationships or face challenges, they do so from a position of strength rather than neediness. Solitude is not emptiness. It is clarity, strength, and freedom. It is where a high-value woman learns to trust herself, honor herself, and grow herself. And this is why she never seeks external validation. High-value women understand that action outweighs approval and that real growth and fulfillment come from doing, creating, and pursuing their purpose rather than seeking validation from others. In a world obsessed with likes, compliments, and recognition, it is easy to become distracted by the need for approval. Many spend their time tailoring their actions, words, and even thoughts to meet the expectations of others. High-value women, however, recognize that this mindset is limiting and disempowering. They know that life rewards courage, initiative, and authenticity far more than it rewards the opinions of others. They focus on what truly matters to them, taking deliberate action toward their goals and dreams without waiting for permission or approval from anyone. Action is empowering because it shifts the source of value from external to internal. High-value women do not wait for others to acknowledge their talents or accomplishments. They move forward regardless. They understand that approval is fleeting and often conditional, whereas the satisfaction of pursuing meaningful work and making tangible progress is enduring. By prioritizing action, they reinforce their own sense of self-worth and independence. Each step taken toward their goals, each project completed, each challenge faced is proof of their capabilities and resilience, reducing the need for external validation. High-value women also understand that action creates momentum. While others may remain stuck in hesitation, worry, or overthinking, they recognize that progress comes from doing, not from seeking reassurance. They take risks, make decisions, and embrace opportunities, even when the outcome is uncertain. Their confidence is rooted in their willingness to act, to test themselves, and to learn from experience. They know that waiting for approval from others often leads to stagnation, missed opportunities, and regret. Action, on the other hand, generates results and builds a life aligned with their vision and values. Another reason action outweighs approval is that high-value women measure their success by their own standards rather than by external markers. They understand that accomplishments are personal and that the value of their efforts is determined by the impact, growth, and fulfillment they experience, not by applause or recognition. Whether it is advancing in their careers, pursuing personal development, cultivating relationships, or nurturing their passions, they take consistent action because it aligns with their goals and values. Their focus is inward and intentional rather than outward and reactive. Action also fosters independence and self-reliance. High-value women do not rely on others to validate their choices, decisions, or efforts. They take responsibility for their lives, knowing that the only way to achieve meaningful results is through their own effort. This self-reliance strengthens their resilience and reduces the influence of criticism or praise. When they act decisively, they build confidence not because someone else approves, but because they see tangible proof of their capability and determination. This creates a sense of empowerment that cannot be shaken by others' opinions. Furthermore, high-value women understand that meaningful work requires focus and discipline. Constantly seeking approval distracts from action because it shifts attention to pleasing others rather than achieving personal goals. By prioritizing action over validation, they conserve their energy and direct it toward pursuits that truly matter. They create, contribute, and innovate with intention, knowing that the satisfaction derived from producing, learning, and growing is far more fulfilling than the temporary approval of others. They do not allow external praise to dictate their pace or path, nor do they let criticism derail their focus. High-value women also lead by example through their actions. They inspire others not by seeking recognition or standing on a pedestal, but by showing what is possible through dedication, consistency, and courage. People notice their work, commitment, and results, but the high-value woman does not depend on this attention to validate her worth. She acts because it aligns with her values, fuels her growth, and brings her closer to the life she desires. Her purpose-driven actions speak louder than words, and her integrity in pursuing what matters builds respect naturally. Ultimately, high-value women understand that life rewards effort, courage, and authenticity far more than it rewards validation. They focus on what they can control, their actions, their decisions, and their mindset, rather than worrying about external approval. By prioritizing action over validation, they cultivate independence, resilience, and self-respect, creating a life that reflects their true worth and potential. Action is the proof of self-belief, the evidence of strength, and the pathway to fulfillment. For a high-value woman, taking action matters more than being validated. And this is why she never seeks external approval. High-value women understand that authenticity is their greatest power, and they live in alignment with their true selves, rather than conforming to others' expectations. In a world that constantly pressures individuals to fit molds, impress, and seek validation, choosing authenticity requires courage and clarity. High-value women know that pretending to be someone they are not or constantly adjusting themselves to please others is a form of self-betrayal. They recognize that living authentically is not about rebellion or defiance, it is about honoring their values, desires, and individuality. When a woman embraces her true self, she no longer needs the approval of others, because her sense of worth comes from being fully aligned with who she is. Authenticity begins with self-awareness. High-value women spend time understanding themselves deeply, their strengths, weaknesses, passions, and limitations. They reflect on what truly matters to them, what brings fulfillment, and what aligns with their values. This level of self-knowledge allows them to make choices that honor themselves rather than being swayed by external pressures. When they act in accordance with their inner truth, their energy becomes genuine, magnetic, and unwavering. People are naturally drawn to authenticity because it is rare and inspiring, but the high-value woman does not act authentically to attract attention or gain approval. She does so because it is the only way she can live fully and honestly. Living authentically also means embracing vulnerability. High-value women are not afraid to show their emotions, admit their mistakes, or express their true thoughts. They understand that vulnerability is not weakness but strength. By being honest about who they are, what they feel, and what they want, they create space for meaningful connections and opportunities that resonate with their authentic self. They do not hide behind facades or masks to gain approval, because they know that temporary praise is meaningless compared to living a life of integrity and truth. Vulnerability paired with self-respect becomes a source of empowerment, allowing them to navigate life with confidence and clarity. High-value women also recognize that authenticity requires courage in the face of judgment and criticism. When a woman chooses to live authentically, she will inevitably encounter opinions and expectations from others that conflict with her values. High-value women do not shrink or compromise themselves to fit someone else's narrative. They understand that external judgment is often a reflection of others' limitations and insecurities, not a reflection of their own worth. By standing firm in their truth, they protect their energy and maintain alignment with their purpose. They do not seek approval because they know their life is theirs to shape, and no one else can dictate its value. Another dimension of authenticity is the refusal to compare or compete unnecessarily. High-value women focus on their own path, their own growth, and their own goals, rather than trying to emulate someone else or live up to external standards. They understand that comparison distorts perception and diminishes self-worth, whereas authenticity brings clarity and freedom. When they act and live in alignment with who they truly are, their energy becomes consistent, focused, and magnetic. They are not distracted by the need to impress or conform because they are already whole and sufficient. Authenticity also fosters resilience and confidence. When a woman's actions, decisions, and relationships are aligned with her true self, she experiences a sense of inner security that cannot be shaken by external opinions. High-value women do not rely on validation to feel worthy. They know that their value is inherent and unshakable because it comes from living according to their own principles. This self-alignment allows them to face challenges with clarity and strength, knowing that they are not compromised by trying to please others. Ultimately, authenticity is a high-value woman's shield and her power. It protects her from being manipulated, diminished, or misled by others' expectations. It allows her to cultivate relationships, opportunities, and experiences that are genuine and meaningful. She moves through the world confidently, knowing that her life is a reflection of her truth, rather than the opinions of anyone else. By living authentically, she experiences freedom, purpose, and a deep sense of fulfillment that external validation could never provide. Being authentic is not always easy, but it is always empowering. For a high-value woman, authenticity is the foundation of her worth, her confidence, and her impact. And this is why she never seeks external validation. In the journey of life, high-value women teach us a powerful lesson: true worth, confidence, and fulfillment come from within. They show us that seeking external validation only limits our potential, while self-awareness, authenticity, boundaries, and purposeful action empower us to rise above societal pressures and live freely. By embracing solitude, celebrating our individuality, and trusting ourselves, we create a life rooted in self-respect and inner strength. Let us take inspiration from this wisdom, stand firmly in our own value, and move through the world with courage and clarity. Good luck on your journey to embracing your inner power, and thank you for being part of this conversation. Your worth has always been yours, and now it is time to own it fully.